Hello.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Yep. Cool.
Hello.
Hey, Conroy, I think we are just waiting on Matt, and Jeff said he will be late.
Cool.
Hello?
Hey, I think we're waiting for Jeff, it sounds like, for a couple minutes here.
Okay, I'll just wait on mute.
Yep.
Hey, Link, are you out here on the call?
I am.
Did the pizza ordering and purchasing process go well?
It did.
Excellent.
I will be picking it up at about 6:15.
Okay. While we're waiting here, I might jump into just some logistics about tonight real quick. We can't use the big TV down in the kitchen this time around. So we're going to resituate the room and be kind of facing toward the back. Anybody here in Anchorage that, can get here a little early to help do that would be appreciated.
Hey, Brad, I live downtown, so I can come by right after this. I have to scoot out pretty early. I accidentally double booked myself tonight. But I can come help you with the setup right after this.
Perfect. Thanks, Melanie. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like we have places to be. So should we get going?
Yeah, why don't you kick us off? Or
Yeah. Is there an agenda for this?
Yeah. Let me get it on Slack real quick. But the first thing up on the
with me, I'm not a big Slack user, and I'm still getting used to it.
okay.
can you post it in the chat in Zoom here, Arsh?
Sure. Let me try that. I'm on like 2 different devices. All right, so the agenda document / notes for the meeting should be in the chat. Right, looks like the first thing up is a board retreat. So Adam.
Sure. So in lieu of Jeff being here, there was a desire to do a board retreat the weekend of the 15th, 16th, 17th. Nothing super put in stone yet, but just wanted to get a feel for whether or not the time would work for people. The desire was to do the event in Fairbanks, since we have a large contingency in Fairbanks. So just kind of getting a feel for who would be able to make it on that weekend, and kind of what numbers and from where people would be coming. So this is kind of be on this call. Is there anyone who knows that for certain 15th, 16th, and 17th will not work for them?
It will not work for me. I was supposed to be out of town, and instead it's my birthday, and I invited like 40 people to a party.
Yeah, I can't make weekends. I got kids unless I plan it out like more than a month in advance.
Okay. Anyone else?
What about if we did like maybe not a whole weekend, but we could have like an extended chat or something if we want to get together sooner? Would that work for people? Like for a few hours?
Well, I think the idea with the retreat is that it's like out of town. We are planning a get-together mixer thing for just after New Year's. But I think this is more about like breaking the norm and going somewhere and hanging out.
Yeah, the hope for this was to kind of put together, the next 12 months or so agenda. I know there's been some feedback both from members and some of the board, myself included, that planning some of the events a month in advance is difficult to do when sponsorships are 6 months in advance. So just kind of get a sense of, what are we planning when, and that will then allow us to go out and actually have a little bit more of lead time than just a few weeks to get some stuff together. So that being said, I totally understand that yet again, 8 days before we want to go to another city, I understand that not everyone can make that. Is there a time on that weekend that would work for people to do more of an extended chat over a Zoom for those that are not able to physically make a retreat?
Evenings on like Saturday or Sunday, for me at least.
Okay. For everyone who hasn't yet said no, there are 8 of us on this call. We've got 2 no's. Is that 6 yeses then?
That works for me.
It works for me.
Yes, for me.
It's tough for me. I'm coordinating startup weekend and startup week in Anchorage here, so that's hard. That's the run up to it.
Okay.
Is that startup weekend, I guess? The 15th to the 17th?
Yeah, I think that's Friday through Sunday.
Yeah, because I was thinking about participating in that too.
Wait, the startup weekend or
The startup weekend.
Bradley? That's the next weekend though, right? That's 22 to 24. Is that true?
No, it's that weekend. That is startup weekend. So I'm the startup week coordinator for Anchorage, so I have to be here for startup week. But yeah, startup weekend, I also need to be around to promote startup week in Anchorage. So I can't be up in Fairbanks. But yeah, that's startup weekend.
Yeah, so that won't work for me because I'll be doing that weekend.
But I mean, in theory, it would be nice. I share the principle of getting together off grid. It just might need to be a little further out, like January or February, for folks to be able to really integrate it.
What about December?
Well, December for me, I'm going to be visiting family in Pennsylvania for most of the month.
Okay.
Lots of people travel for the holidays, right?
Yeah. So I think in January would be a good time to do a retreat.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Everybody definitely wants to go to Fairbanks in January.
I just won some land west of Manly Hot Springs, so if people want to come help stake it out, that would be remote.
Did you say you just won it? Like you
Yeah, DNR just had a drawing for Alaska residents to stake out like vacation land way far out, so you can get it for $2,000 an acre from the state. You go and stake it yourself. But yeah, Manly Hot Springs might be a bit of a push for this group.
You gotta
120 miles of dirt road, right?
You gotta take yourself a snow machine up there or something.
Yeah.
All right, so looks like for the retreat, people want to do it in January, so we have at least a month or so of lead time.
That'd be good.
Yeah, and for the parents out there, like what are the easiest time frames for a weekend if we want to do it over a weekend?
At least for me, it just needs to be planned out, and I gotta do a bunch of coordinating and come up with a main, secondary, and tertiary plan.
What about the second week of January? Because people should be back from vacations by then.
Yeah, that should work.
So I plan to be in Boston. Until school starts. So I believe that's the 14th or the 15th, somewhere around there.
How about the 17th of January? Like that 17th, 18th, would that work?
That could work, yeah.
That works for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'll likely work for me as well.
All right, so let's do that tentatively, and hopefully nothing comes up then.
Is the thought still to do it in Fairbanks?
We should get a head count.
I'm all for Fairbanks personally. I think we have a large number of people in Fairbanks, and it may be easier for some people to travel to Fairbanks than get everyone in Fairbanks to travel elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm down for coming up to Fairbanks.
I would like to, just as a potential, I haven't talked to him about it, but I think it would be cool to go out to the Geeks in the Woods Valdez property at some point.
We could talk about that, but I think that might not be a Dev Alliance event. I think they're kind of doing their own thing out there.
Okay.
One good thing also that possibly add on is the Juneau Hot Springs we can go to.
No, that would be a retreat. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So I have a yes from Adam, Bradley, Link, Conroy, and Melanie. Seemed like that was a yes.
I don't know that I'll be here, but if I am, it sounds great.
For you folks up in Fairbanks, do you have any notion about where would be best for something like this? I've only ever been to Chena.
Like for people to stay at, or just where to hold the event?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is to kind of decide the context. Like, is this an off-grid, out at a cabin? Don't even bother bringing your laptops because the nearest Wi-Fi is 100 miles away? Or is this like, a working plenary retreat where we want resources?
The other interesting question. either way is easy to do up here, especially with Airbnb, because we can go either way with that, I guess. But going out to dinner is fine too. I mean, there's a China Pump restaurants.
You could do like a day of each.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere between Anchorage and Fairbanks?
Denali.
Winter? Yeah.
Talkeetna.
I was thinking
Ooh.
Talkeetna, but that's really close to Anchorage. That's a big drive for you Fairbanks folks.
Yeah, I think like
I don't know why
Denali
you
is
It's
guys
the
almost
point.
halfway.
in January. I don't know why I want to come to Fairbanks in January.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'll do a little scouting this week on Airbnb and see kind of possibilities. Sounds like nobody has a location that jumps out as like, oh, it has to be here.
Yeah.
So maybe we all should just do a little research and talk about where that would be around Fairbanks.
I would look around places like Chena Ridge because that has a good overlook of the city. You're on the hill there, so.
I have a friend who's in tourism, and I'll check with him and see what the winter tourism situation is, if there's anywhere that he would suggest.
Yeah, it's also good to do.
My parents stayed at some cabin at a Bible camp, kind of outside of Fairbanks, heading towards Chena. They have like a bunch of cabins there.
Yeah, and I mean, Chena itself is in a layout of a bunch of cabins, with kind of a central kitchen cafeteria area. And the Wi-Fi there is passable. So if we wanted a place that was a little remote but still connected, that'd be worth looking into pricing.
I live downtown. There's plenty to do down here. At least places to go to meet. Like they have coffee shops and cafes and restaurants mostly down here.
All right, looks like that's done. Any last comments, thoughts, concerns?
No.
So the next thing on the agenda was recruiting for Juneau leader. So Conroy.
All right, just a sec.
So next thing on the agenda is recruiting someone new in Juneau.
Yeah, sorry. I had to take a sip of water real quick. Yeah, this is something that Jeff and I have been talking about, but essentially we think that like to support a place, you really need probably at least two, but probably hopefully three people that are willing to step up and do stuff. And it's also a redundancy thing, right? So when somebody leaves or is busy or something, right, it's not all on one person. So in that vein, I have plans to leave and do some traveling. So we're trying to find people, not just because it'd be good to have redundancy, but also just, so the chapter doesn't shut down here. We talked with Brian at RDI. He said there wasn't anybody inside their organization that was interested, but that he'd reach out. And then I got a message from Daniel Strong here in Juneau yesterday saying that he might be interested. I invited him to this call, but I guess he couldn't make it. So that'll be something I can follow up with. But there would also be, I'm also shutting down the co-working space, so there'd be the question of where to meet. And RDI might be a host, even if they're not like a representative or a board member. There's also UAS. There's the makerspace here has kind of, I think they've got about 2 to 3 megs a second for Wi-Fi, so it's kind of on the slow side. I don't know if it'd be good for a video streaming sort of situation. But Juneau's so small, maybe we just meet at somebody's house. It's not that big a deal, I guess. So yeah, I guess those are just the things that we should probably be making some decisions or some progress on. Just because I think it'd be harder to restart a chapter here if it kind of lapses, or at least that's what Jeff had mentioned. Kind of want to keep the momentum going, right? But seeing as we're kind of winding down for the end of the year, right, anyways, right? Do we even have a December meetup? We might have like, close to 2 months before we really have to have any of the stuff nailed down.
Yeah,
And
there's no December meetup, so.
Yeah, cool. So nobody's gonna, yeah. So we got a couple months, but I'll still be available to help how I can. But yeah, I'm not gonna be able to host at the space, and I might not be able to host in person either.
So what's the timeline? What's the timeline for shutting down the co-working space?
The end of this month. So we'll host it here tonight, but come January, we'd have to find a different venue. That's all I really got on that. I guess if you know anybody here, or if you have feelers or know companies, or yeah, send them my way, send them Jeff way. And I think it's one of those many hands makes light work, but it's not, it's not a super big deal as long as the person's consistent and enjoys it, right? Yeah, that's all I got.
Sweet. Anyone else have anything on that? Awesome. So the next thing is moving these meetings. I know we decided on Tuesdays at noon, but both Matt and I have a class. And I guess, yeah, when is it? So like, I don't know, does this time work for people? I am generally free in the evenings.
Lunch is better for me if it's possible.
This time works.
I'm okay with either. I generally like lunch as well because it just seems like it's part of the workday. But at 5 o'clock, I feel like I'm done. But
Lunch would work also.
Yeah, lunch works for me.
So basically any day at lunch?
I would need to happen before like 1 because I have classes.
Prefer not Wednesdays.
so y'all have that Tuesday class. What about Thursdays?
It's the same class on Thursdays.
How about Monday?
I can do noon on Monday.
That works for me.
Yeah, you can do Mondays.
Yeah, I can generally do noon on Mondays.
All right, so let's do noon on Mondays unless something comes up. And we can run that through the Slack.
I have class at 1 p.m. on Mondays, but if we do it for an hour, we should be fine.
Yeah, I have the same class.
Oh, right.
Right. And we should check next semester schedule just to make sure we don't fall into issues again.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think.
Let me pull my schedule.
All right. So for the next one, I was hoping Eric would be here, but Adam, do you have any updates on 501k for stuff like Slack or G Suite, anything along this line?
Yeah, we are in the process of applying for nonprofit status with a large number of tech companies. Essentially, what we found out in the last week or so is that the vast majority of tech services that we use a common clearing company called TechSoup to basically do their nonprofit approval. And as we ran into with PayPal, because we are using Launch Alaska's 501c3 legally, when we put in for the Dev Alliance, the paperwork we have says Launch Alaska on it. And a lot of companies are sticklers that the name must match down to the punctuation. So as a result of that, TechSoup basically has said, we're not going to give you anything nonprofit until you can tell us why your name isn't Launch:Alaska. So we're asking Launch Alaska if we can use their name with TechSoup, and we basically just want to make sure we're not stepping on their toes in case they are taking advantage of the nonprofit rate for software for things like G Suite or Slack. So that's where we're at on that right now.
Awesome. Is there like a timeline for that?
That is a good question. I have an email into Isaac and have not yet heard back. So I am uncertain at this point. I do believe at the very least that there may be a meeting between Isaac, Jeff, and myself once Jeff is back after the 13th or so. So I would hope to have this wrapped up by the end of the month, but uncertain.
Sweet. That was all on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to like pressing on their minds?
Just getting set up for tonight.
Yep. So yeah, I guess yeah.
Brad, what time are you going to start that?
I mean, Link, you said you were showing up with pizzas around 6:15 or 6:30.
Yeah, 6:30. I'm picking them up at 6:15. I'll be leaving my office at 6.
Great. Yeah, happy hour is still going on here at the boardroom. So I imagine about 6 o'clock, Melanie, people will be clearing out and I can get tables moving.
Okay, I'll come by at 6.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Do we have a Zoom or should I make one?
Would you make one and post the link for me to connect to, Arsh?
Yep, I'll make one and it'll be on the Slack.
Great. Perfect.
Sweet. Awesome. See you guys in half an hour then.
All right. Thanks, Arsh.
All right, thanks so much.
Yep.
Bye,
Yep.
y'all.